Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we'll Menachot daf Chavches. We're going to begin on Chavches Amud Aleph by the new Mishnah. As we saw in yesterday's daf, we were discussing certain things that it's an all or nothing package, that you have to do the whole thing, because otherwise it's ma'akev. On this, the Mishnah continues. Shiva kanei menorah ma'akven zed zeh. It's necessary, the menorah must have 7 branches. As the pasuk Rashi quotes, "V'shisha kanim yotzim misideha." You have to have 6 branches coming from its sides. You have the center, the center piece, and then the 3 on each side. As Rashi says, "Uva menorah atzma shebeemsa." Therefore, that's 7, and it says hashis kizeh, just like there, like this. And on the side it says Hatzior Timsa Beperishim Mishnayis L'Rambam L'Kalman Daf Tzadi Ches. So if you go all the way to Daf Tzadi Ches, which is Kizeh, it's like that's Kizeh. So if you turn to Daf Tzadi Ches, you'll notice that there is a picture over here in Rashi of a menorah. Right, so it's kind of interesting. It's Kizeh from in 70 blot from now. Okay. Anyway, but that's an interesting Rashi, an interesting girsa. So it's necessary to have all 7 branches. Shiva nerosem akven zedze. Also, the lamps themselves, which held the oil, also is necessary. On the top of each branch, there had to be this candelabra that was able to hold the oil and the wicks. Shtei psilois ma'akven zezeh. Shtei parsha shememezuzim akvois zu at zu. So we know the Shema and B'chaim Shemoah. If you only, let's say, write the first paragraph of the Shema and put a mezuzah, that doesn't work. You have to have both. Afil kos ksav echad ma'akven. Even ksav echad, Rashi says, is ois achas. Even if all it's missing is one letter, as it says, uksav tam ksiva tama b'shlema. It says, like by the Lulav Nesser, we said on yesterday's stuff, kachtam as a kicha tama, uksav tam is ksiva tama, is to be complete. Fine. And Dalad Parsha shebetfilin ma'akvin zu et zu. So it's necessary to have all 4 parshios, Shema, B'chaim Shema, Kaddish, and V'hoyu. Afil kosav echad ma'akvin, even one letter missing is not good. As Rashi says, V'hoyu, because it is V'hoyu. It says Havoyu. Okay. Dalad Tzitziyos, which we're actually going to get to the next parak, and our Masechta, about Tchelas. So Dalad Tzitziyos ma'akva zu et zu. It's necessary for them to be 4, right? So it's interesting. Rashi said over here, over tefillin siv, and then Rashi after says Dal Parsha with tefillin. Shema B'chaim Shemo, Kaddish Li Kol B'chor, V'hoya Ki Yacha. Fine. So that is that's all the Rashis there. So anyway, the 4 corners are necessary. Mitzvah ma'akva zu at zu. She'ar basan mitzvah achas. They're like one mitzvah. B'shmo oimer ar basan and arba mitzvahs. The 4 is actually 4 mitzvahs. Says the Gemara. So my time. So what is the reason? Avoyak sebahu, as Rashi says. It says kaftorehim v'kinasam mimenu yiyu. So by the menorah in Parshas Truma, which we actually just had recently, sometimes interesting, Daf Yomi falls out during the same week as the Parsha, or nearby. So it's ma'akev. Tonaban menorah haisa ba min ha'ashis umin hazahav. Menorah comes from a clump of metal and also from gold. Now this is interesting. Most of us would think that, again, it has to be mamish gold. But we see here it's not the case. Also min hagrutais. Now it's supposed to be one piece of metal, but if it was pieces of metal together, then psula, even though they're like pieces of gold, that doesn't matter. But mishar mini matchas kshera. The menorah actually does not have to be out of gold. in the menorah, which is pretty in the mikdash. So Maishna min hagrutais psul. Why, if it's in just individual pieces and you kind of like Legos put them together, it doesn't work. The siv miksha havoya. So it says miksha, which is mashma that it has to be one entire piece. It has to be made from one piece. Sharmini manchas nami zahav havoya. So how do we allow other metals then? It also says that same word, which seems to be dafka gold. So Amakra tiaseno ralba sharmini matachis. So the fact is, it has this other word. Hamanayra is mashma siasena. It means in any place, any other metals is also acceptable. Okay. The emo ralbois garutois. So if one's a riboy, one's a miyut, that's what we often see. So then why are we including other metals but not allowing many pieces of gold? The amakshiksiva havoya, because it says it has to be one piece. I see a nami amakshena ksiv. So it also says apparently that it should be made of gold. So mashim ma'akashol akev zahav nami lakev. So then again, why don't we say that it's ma'akev? So hi mai iyam Rabbi Shlama min hagurutois psula mishar mini madchas kshera. I could understand if there are numerous pieces put together, it's not good. However, if it's other materials of metal, it's okay. Because hainu zahav, miksha, and drasha. Then we can use these different words to teach us a drasha. That it's something to tell you it's dafka has to be one piece, but it could be including other metals. And therefore, that would be fine, right? So you look in Rashi. Diamrina miksha deviyichuli truma la'akev. So it must be it's la'akev. So hainu the itzrach zahav deviyichulu truma, says Rashi, umiksha debahaloischa l'drash achriti, to tell you something else. The shamina mina teach us the mishamini matchis namikshera. Can the come on, or right? Will come on. Okay, we'll see later on. So then it makes sense. Hainu zahav zahav with Russia. Eli yamred min hagrutois kshera. You can use it many pieces. Meshamini madchas psula. So zahav miksha my darish. Okay. So my drasha. So what exists is drasha? Sanya. Kikar zahav tahar yasa. When it comes to making it, it must be the measurement of a kikar of zahav. As koil hakelim eila bazav bakikar. Just means that if you're using actual gold, only then does it need to be this measurement of a kikar. However, eno ba zahav, if let's say use a different metal, which is allowed, eno ba kikar, you don't need it. Gaviyeho kaftareho paracheho. So it says the goblets, the knobs, and the flowers. So ba zahav, again, if the menorah is made out of gold, then ba gavim kaftareho parachim. Then in fact you need to have goblets, knobs, and flowers. All these decorative things on the menorah. However, eno ba zahav, eno ba gavim kaftarim parachim. If it's of other metals, then that's not necessary. Ve'manami ba zahav ba kanim, enu ba zahav, enu ba kanim. So maybe it doesn't need to have branches. Now, who pamoit mikri? If it doesn't even have branches, then as Rashi says, it's a pamoit, which is a menorah katana. It's like a small lantern, and that's not a menorah. Zemasa menorah miksha zahav. What is that? We learn from here. Ba zahav ba miksha. That if it's of gold, it's got to be one piece. Enu ba zahav, enu ba miksha. However, if it's not made of gold, it doesn't have to be one piece. So miksha the sefer l'mayasa. Why does it say it a second time? That it's not the same dinim when it comes to the trumpets. So what do we learn about the trumpets? The sanya. Now when it comes to the trumpets, they're made out of a clump of metal. Min kesef, from silver, awesome. Min hagrutois ksherim. However, unlike the menorah, the chatzaisus, if they're made out of individual pieces of silver, it's okay. Misharmini madches psulin. It's made out of other metals, it's possible. So this is actually fakert, the opposite din as the menorah. When it comes to the menorah, does not have to be gold, but if it's made out of gold, it must be one whole piece. When it comes to the chatzaisus, it has to be silver, cannot be another metal, but it could be from other pieces. Okay, let's look at question 12. Menorah hasuya mikasef. If you have a menorah made out of silver, which we said is okay, chatzaisus is mazahav, is it kosher? So menorah from silver is kosher. Chatzaisus made out of gold is pasul. Okay, and then ha'im mikshe ma'akev b'menorah chatzaisus. So does it have to be one piece? So if it's made out of gold, the menorah, then it's ma'akev. If it's made out of other metals, it's not a problem. Chatzaitus, it's not ma'akev at all. Okay, and then we already saw. All right, so that kind of like explains the difference. So umayshna mishar mini marchas psulim. How come when it comes to the trumpets that you can't use other metals? It has to be silver. Kasev hoyo. So min hagrutois nami miksha v'havoya. So l'chayra, you should say the same thing, that it shouldn't be allowed to be made out of other pieces. So min rachmanagam menorah. It's only by menorah that we're strict about it. Miksha he vo b'chatzaitus. That's only when it comes to the menorah we're strict that it has to be one piece of gold, but not by the trumpets. Okay, question TA7. TA7 asks. So what are the things that are ma'akev? Only if it's made out of gold. This is TA7. So let's get this down. So if it comes from kikar, if it's gold, then it has to be the weight of a kikar. But if it's not of gold, then it does not have to be of kikar. If it comes from Zahav, it needs Gavim Kaftarihim Uparachim. Enuba Zahav, Enuba Gavim Kaftarim Uparachim. That's the second. And also Mikshe, whether it has to be whether it has to be from one piece, right? Then it's only if it's gold. But if it's not made out of gold, it could be other. It doesn't have to be that way. Which is the same question as question TB10. Il davar ma'akvin rak b'menorah. So I wrote kikar gavia kafter paracheha miksha, which is pretty impressive because that's exactly right. Sounds like I did pretty well on this test. That's TB10. TB10. Okay, let's keep going. Tana Rabbanan. Kol Kalim, as we continue to Amud Beis. She'asa Moshe, all the Kalim that Moshe Rabbeinu made, ksherim loy, v'ksherim l'daitis. They're kosher in that generation and all other generations. Chatzaitus ksheris lo v'sulas l'daitis. However, when it comes to the chatzaitus, that's something which is only allowed only in the days of Moshe, but not for all future generations. That seems strange. My time, well, why not the chatzaitus? That says you should make it, which is mashma not for daris. Aron 8. So it says you should make the aron out of wood. So hachinami daris, right? So maybe we should say the same thing for that. What is the reason? Either because it means, it says l'cha means it should be from his own funds, right? You have to use your own funds, and therefore you can't use other ones. That the rest of the Jewish people from Moshe. So hainami. Okay, so what does that mean? This kaviyachol. So look in Rashi. Okay, so either you can say either because it means to his own funds, or maybe the rest of the Jewish people. Ani wrote to Yosim Shalhem. I wanted more than them. Okay, so Hainamim Boyulei Lahachi Shani Hasam Niyamakra Lachalacha Tre Zimni. So by the menorah, by chatzaitus, why is it Lodairis and says it twice? So also Chava Haylacha. Fine. So Tani Rav Papa Bered Rav Chanin Kamei Rav Yosef. Menorah Haysaba Min Eshes Min Azah. As we said, that when it comes to the menorah, it's supposed to be made out of like one piece and out of gold. Also shel kesef. However, the menorah is made out of silver. Shera, right? That's what we said before, right? The menorah, as we already said, does not have to be made out of gold. It could be made out of silver. Shel bats, shel aver, shel gisteroin. What if the menorah is made out of these other non high quality metals like tin, lead? So Rabbi Poisa, Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda Machshir. Okay, shel eitz, shel etzem, shel zechuchas divrei psul. However, if the menorah is made out of wood, if it's made out of bones or glass, that doesn't work. Everyone agrees that's not good. So I'm my daita. So what exactly is the mindset over here that you said Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda is machshir b'shel eitz and apostles that he apostles butts and he apostles these machshir butts and he apostles eitz. So what's the difference? They don't seem to be high quality. So Amalei bein lomar klali prati darshi. The truth is, we're going to learn how to klal pratu klal to give us an understanding of what's included and what's excluded. So miu marsavar mahapram before shel matechas av kol davar shel matechas has to be just some type of metal, and therefore, for that reason, you can use gold, you can silver, but you can't use bone, right? And you can't use glass, and you can't, and for that same reason, you can't use wood. However, you can, according to this other opinion, shel butts, Rabbi Yosef Yehuda says it's okay because it's matches. It is made out of metal. Mar savar mar pramaforish davar choshev av koil davar choshev, and that's why he says butts and ever and gistenin doesn't work because it's not a davar choshev. So Amalei sami didach mikmei didi. Delete your brisa from mine. The sanya kli shar shasin shel eitz. When it comes to kli sharis, which is made out of wood. So again, we already said that everyone, let every hakoil eitz cannot be used. So we see over here kli sharis made out of wood. Rabbi Yehuda machshir. So you can't tell me the reason is totally on. It's because the kal prat is al davar shel matches. So then why would then he allow shel eitz? So Rabbi Darsh kal prati, Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda Darsh riboy miuti. Okay, so now we're going to understand this. Rabbi Darsh kal prati v'yasisa menorah, which is more generic, so it's klal. Zahav tar, specific gold, pure gold, prat. Miksha siyasa ha-menorah, so chazav kal. Klal prat kal, yetadan l'kiyana prat. So ma prat mafurish. What is the middle thing, the prat, which is gold? That's shel matachas. Havkol shel matachas, and therefore that will exclude shel eitz. Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda Darsh Ribu Miuti. V'asisa Menorah Riboy is inclusive. Zahav Tahar Miut. Miksha Siyasana Menorah Chazav Riba Riba Hakoil includes everything. So my Rabbi called Mili. However, so it can't include everything. So why is it? There must be some exclusion. So Miat Shel Cheres. It's just coming to exclude earthenware. However, Shel eitz will be okay. Ada Rabba Sami Didach Mekabidi. You want to remove my brisa, remove your brisa. Lo sagadak the sanya ein loy zahav. If you don't have gold, maybe av shel kesev, shel nechayshis, shel barzel, shel bedil. Right, as we said, you can, if you don't have gold, or you can use silver or copper or some type of a metal or bedil, which is tin. The shel fires, who said is lead. Now Yosef Rabbi Yehuda machshir af shel eitz. He actually does machshir wood. But tiny idach, and yet another brisa says, lo yasa adam base tavnis heichel. They are not allowed to replicate and make the same dimensions and structure as the heichel, as well as the exadra keneged ulam. You can't make an exadra opposite like what the ulam looks like. The chatzar keneged azara, shulchan keneged shulchan, ner keneged naira. So you can't make all these things exactly the way it was done in the Beis Mikdash. But what could you do? If you want, you could have a menorah which can't use a 7-branch menorah, but you can have a branch menorah which is not the same number as 7. The shel shiva lo yiyasa, but 7 it should not be done. Which means even if it's made out of a different metal, it's still not allowed. Why? Because that's still comparable to what could have been done in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, in which 7 of other metals is acceptable. You can't even make it out of wood, which is what the menorah in the Beis Hamikdash apparently was made, right? The times of the Chashmonoim. It says clearly it was made out of 8s. So we see clearly a raya that shel 8s is allowed. So Amrullah Mishum Raya, Shepoidim Shvudim Shel Barzel Hoyu. Actually, it was made out of metal in there, the chifon bebots, and it was covered up with tin. So it looked like wood, but it really wasn't. Hashiru, once became a little more wealthy, so some shel kesef, we made it into silver. Chazav Hashiru, we got even more wealthy, some shel zahav. Amr Shmuel Mishmei de Saba, Goyva shel menorah, Gavoy shel menorah, Shmoina asut tfachim. So the height of the menorah, it was 18 tfachim, which, assuming tefach 6 is 6 tfachim equals an amos, so it's 3 amos. So that's those are the dimensions. Hariglayim v'hapareach gimel tfachim. On the bottom, the perach was 3 tfachim. Utafachayim chalok, and it was 2 tfachim, which was plain gold. V'tefach shaboy gaviyah v'kafter v'parach, and another tefach was the gaviyim kafter the ferach. V'tefachayim, 2 of the 2 tefach was chalok, was plain gold. The tefach kaftor, and there was a tefach of kaftor. V'shnei konim yotzim imenu, echad elch v'echad elch. So basically, it's talking about the bottom, and then there was these knobs along the way, and each time there was this knob, that's where it branched off. V'nimshachin v'oilim keneged gavoya shel menorah, v'tefach chalok, v'tefach tefach of smoothness, v'tefach kaftor, and there was a knob. V'shnei konim yotzim imenu, and then there was these 2 branches that came. It was already outside branch, the 2 middle outside branches, echad elch v'echad elch on both sides. Nimshachan v'oilin keneged gavoya shel menorah, v'tefach chalok, went up another tefach, v'tefach kaftor, there was a knob. V'shnei konim yotzim imenu, echad elch v'echad elch, each one going each side. Nimshachan v'oilin keneged gavoya shel menorah, and it went up to the height of the menorah. So notice the branches were all aligned; they're all equal in height. Keneged gavoya shel menorah. Tefachayim chalok, it was 2 tefachim of smooth, pure gold. Nishtar shem gimel tefachim sheben gimel gavim kafter v'perach. Then there's 3 more tefachim which had the decorative ornaments of the menorah. The gavin lo mahayu diamond. What were the Gavian comparable to in which we translate as like goblets? So what exactly did they actually compare to, or what did they look like? Kamin kaisais Alexandrium. They were like these cups from Alexandria. That's what they had in Egypt, in Egypt, in the city. And that's like it looked similar to those. Kaftayrim l'mahim diamond. What are these knobs? Kamin tefuche hakartayim, like these like tapuach, like these apples of this particular location. Parachim, these flowers l'mahim diamond. Kamin pirchei ha'amudim, just like these flowers that are these designs on pillars. V'nimsu, what do we find? Gavian Esrim Vishnayim. When it came to the amount, if you count them all up, there were 22 of these Gavian. Kaftayrim Echad Aser, there was 11 knobs, so it was 22 Gavian, 11 knobs. Parachim Tisha, and there was 9 of these flower designs. Gavian Akvan Zedzeh, so you had to have the precise amount of Gavian, namely 22. Kaftayrim Akvan Zedzeh, you have to have the right amount of knobs, namely 11. Parachim Ma'akvan Zedzeh, and the 9 flowers are also ma'akiv. Now, we also said this is only if it's made out of gold. If it's not made out of gold, then all these things are not ma'akiv. Gavim, Kaftarium, Parachim, Ma'akvan Zedzeh, and they all are needed for each other. So Bishlam Gavim Asher Mishnayim. I know that the Gavim were 22. Dichsiv. If a menorah arba Gavim, it says that the menorah had 4 Gavim. V'chul v'gaimer. Dichsiv Shleisha Gavim Mishukadim B'kano Echad. Kafir v'ferach. Right. So it says that there was 3 Gavim by each of the kanim. So therefore, if you just do the basic math, so there's 7 times 3, that's 21, plus the 1 is 22. And because arba dida, there was 4 on like the middle one. So there was 3 on the 6, which made 18. And then the middle one had 4, so that equaled 22. V'tamid sari dekanim, 12 of the v'tamid sari dekanim ha'esrim v'tartin, 12 on the kanim, and then which equals 22. Okay, kaftayrin nami echad, we know it's 11. Kaftayrim trei dida, v'sheish dekanim, those 2 for themselves, 6 on each of the outside kanim, v'kaftor, and each time it broke off, right, the middle of where it broke off, there was a knob there. So you had a kaftor there as well. So again, you had 3 as each one broke off, which is hachad. Sorry, it's 11 because it was 6 kanim, and there was a kaftor. The kaftor. Read it again. 2 by itself, 6 for the kanim, which is 8, and then each one there was a kaftar. Okay, there was a kaftar by each time it broke off is 11. El parachim tishmanon. How do we know that there was 9 flowers? Parachim trei dida, 2 for itself. Shisha the kanim, 1 on each of the 6 branches. That's 8. So tamni habi, that's only 8. So Rav Shalman ksiv ad yurecha, till its base. Ad pircha mikshahi. So therefore, it's also on the bottom of the menorah. Okay, so that's basically the basic design and decorative aspect of the menorah. And let me just take one more peek at this menorah to see if we. I think this would have been kedai to have a picture of this menorah, right? So you can see on this menorah that it's 7 branches. This is kind of hard to see, but you can see that there's a kaftor, which we said there's 11. So there's 3 by each of the branches. So that's 6, and then, or you could even say 7, and then there's 8, 9, 10, 11. You can see by each time there was a break, there is a knob. Okay, and the gavim, there were 22 of them. As you can see, and there was 11. There were 9 flowers, 6 for that. You can also see there was 1 at the base, at the bottom. So that ended up equaling 9. Okay, let's stop there. Question 13. Kama gavim, kama parachim, hayu basachat koyel b'menayra. So gavim, we already said the amount was 22, and 4 of them were on the guf of the menorah. The parachim, there was 9, and 3 of them were on the guf of the menorah. Okay. Question TA 8. Tana Rabbi Shmuel Gimel Davar Mahayu Kash L'Moshe. Okay, we didn't see that. Adkan.